Got this once I remember I told my therapist like, you know, I don't think I'll ever get a girlfriend because like, why would a girl like someone who's like not manly? Turns out I got a girlfriend, so it's fine. So like, but like.
What is the worst thing someone has said to you?
The worst thing someone has said to me is people who commit suicide deserve to go to hell.
Your face is a combination of everything that I would never want.
I will strip you off a rank because I don't think you're fit to be a commander.
I can't date you because you're too insecure.
You're delusional.
Oh my god, sorry, my heart's a little beating so fast. Okay, so this was said to me when I was in primary school. It wasn't like said to me directly. It was like a remark passed around. Oh my god. Sorry. Sorry guys. Wow. Okay. It was like a conversation that people around me were having and I was like right there. I don't know if it was like intended for me to hear or not. But then when they realized that I heard it, this person looked at me and she said like, don't you think so though? That I got like other types of comments similar to that was like pertaining to my appearance. When I got even more insults growing up, it became more of like a confirmation that like I'm not pretty and I'm not attractive and I'm not like
Uni was quite a tough time for me because socially it was quite challenging also, especially because I stayed in hall. It was kind of like superficial and toxic, and they would impose a lot of weird social rules and I guess like activities. It was very normal for people to just like enter your room, like, you know, you're sleeping and then you just kind of like barge in. And for me that was very uncomfortable because my room is my safe space, but for them it's like people who always lock their rooms, they will think that you're very unfriendly and they'll kind of like talk about that behind your backs. And then we have a lot of weird initiation stuff, like you have to take off your clothes or you have to like hold hands with like members of the opposite sex. And like I was an international student, so I'm Malaysian. I had to stay, you know, like I didn't have a choice to not stay, if not I'll be homeless. So I told my parents like, is it okay if like y'all maybe, I was paying for my own accoms, but I told them like, can you maybe give me some money so that I can move out? And they were kind of like very discouraging about it. They were like, hall already so cheap, so why you wanna move out, like for what? And they kind of like dismissed the fact that I was very depressed and anxious. It was quite bad to the point that I will wait until everyone was gone, then I'll go and pee. Like I will hold my pee in because I just didn't want to like bump into people and get that like very judgmental stares and all that, you know. So I kind of like told some of like my close friends and family members, and they were like, basically mental health is like not real. They're like, you know, it's all in your head. And they were very dismissive about it. And at one point, I'm not gonna say who lah, but someone was just like, you know, like if you commit suicide, it's very selfish. I feel that people who commit suicide deserve to go to hell.
So this happened when I was like quite a few years ago, and so I was dating this guy lah. So he was your typical like social butterfly, and then because I'm attached to him, I also have to go for all his social events, like, you know, meet his friends, things like that lah. I'm quite introverted and I deal with a lot of anxiety when it comes to social situations. Sometimes if I go to places that are too like noisy, then I feel like I cannot breathe. And I know it doesn't seem super apparent if you've never met me before or if you only see me like hee hee ha haing on videos, but it's very different for me when it's in real life, when I'm with people that I'm not familiar with. And so what happened was that he brought me to this event that was really very jam-packed. At first I was holding his hand, but as we got through the crowd, then we lost contact. So at some point I was just alone, and then I was starting to really feel very unwell. I felt like I was going to cry because I was like, now I'm alone, I'm getting like jostled around. Then I was like, yeah, I need to get out of here lah. I eventually got outside lah, and then by then I could hear that my phone was like ringing. And then he asked me like, where the hell are you? Then I said I left. And then the background also, I could hear his friends yelling at him also, like, hey, her lah, get off the, like, you know, get off the phone, things like that. We met up like, I can't remember if it was the day after or like a few days later. And then he said he wanted to split up. Then I asked him, why do you want to break up? Then he said, I can't date you if you're so insecure lor.
Around army time was when I was diagnosed with GAD, Generalized Anxiety Disorder. Because of that, I wasn't the best soldier. Efficiency-wise, not the best, and I was also very anxious, so I wasn't performing to my highest potential. Or my doctor decided to help me out with like getting me MC and like maybe even trying to down pass me, etc. I remember when I was going to take MC, my OC at the time, he said that if I didn't take the MC and I just stay in camp, he will make sure that I recover and everything, and that I will do better. But if I take the MC, then he told me that he will strip me off my rank because he don't think that I'm fit enough to be a commander because of my condition. Which at that time I was like, sir, I'm like, I just want to rest. Like, you can take off my rank. I don't really care at this point. So I took the MC in the end. I understand the general apprehension towards people who have mental health disorders, especially in army, because people have like done it before. They like talking, using this as an excuse, etc. So I think commanders in general are like very wary of these things. So I get that. I don't fully blame them, but as someone that was actually going through some shit and like having a tough time, like, yeah, it didn't help lah.
I've dealt with anxiety for all my life, and I know for a fact that I'm an overthinker. So the story begins with my ex. It is a very toxic relationship to begin with. We always argue on small little things. There's this one day we were supposed to go to St. John Islands. The day before, she said, can you like call me at 9 a.m. But then I woke up at 7 because it was raining. So I texted her, babe, it is raining right now. Should we still go? La 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 la. And then she scolded me. She said, why you didn't call me? And then I said, oh, because I wanted to call you lah, but like at 9 or around before 9, because that's what we agreed on. And then she keeps scolding me. I wanted to like make this conversation just end, right? So I just said, okay, if you love me, right, can we stop doing this and rush to the ferry terminal? Then she called me delusional for putting these words saying that if you love me, then we have to stop this. And she called me delusional twice through text. And from there, I overthink a lot in terms of, am I crazy that this is happening again, or am I crazy for being with her? And things just spiral to the point where I break down in my own room. She used to tell me that if any of my attacks happen, to call her and everything. So I tried. And when she picked it up, she heard me crying and everything, and she I don't think she cares. Even during the call, once I was crying, having a panic attack, she called me delusion one more time. And it kind of brought me down, like, yeah.
It really made my self-confidence like deteriorate a lot. It takes a lot out of me to get out of my house, because like I have to make sure that everything is up to like what I perceive as pretty enough. If I leave and I leave my house and I don't look a certain way, then I will feel so ugly, and I will feel like, yep, everybody's looking at me, and they will know that like she is not confident and she's just not pretty, and that just makes my entire day like so terrible. Like today, because I'm not wearing makeup. Yeah.
My family and I, we were still close, but I would not tell them certain things and just keep the rest of the things to myself lah. I just felt very alone and very secluded, even though I was living with people.
At that point of time, it really felt like somebody just kicked me lor. I was wondering why I was struggling so much with this kind of thing when nobody else seemed to be struggling with it. So I thought it was a me problem. And it didn't help also that that group of friends also, they kept telling my partner at the time like, oh, don't date her. Then I started wondering if they had a point. I just felt like there was something wrong with me.
I think it affected a lot of my sense of self-worth. At the time when you're 18 or 19 in army, your performance in army was like all you have to go off of, is what you determine yourself as a man through your performance in the army. And in that moment, I didn't really feel particularly like manly.
After we broke up, my anxiety actually got worse. I overthink every single night. I overthink to the point where I dream about like, if things work out, how will it be? You know, like should I have done this better, or should I have not done this? And I keep dreaming about this and overthinking about this, so I break down every single night.
I didn't reach out for any like professional help because like I feel like at that point of time it didn't seem like, okay, it is a big deal, but it didn't seem like a big enough deal for me to consult help. I did try to like talk to adults. I talked to like my parents. They were not of help in the way that I needed, and I don't blame them because I don't think they knew what exactly I was going through and what I needed to hear. And I guess also because I was so young, I wouldn't even know who exactly was available for me to like talk to. And it didn't help that I feel like back then, being like vulnerable, being upset, it felt like you can't. Because like, I don't know, was it like cringe or was it like just me being afraid? Personally, like how I could grow out of that a bit more now was because like I met people who saw this hurt and was able to allow me to like tell them how I felt. So for me it was like my boyfriend.
I only realized much later on that other people also struggle with this kind of stress or anxiety, and that I wasn't the only one. Like on hindsight, I do think that if I had just talked to somebody about this, maybe I would have figured out a lot earlier that this wasn't a issue that was isolated to me, and that I wasn't so alone in all of this.
I did eventually seek therapy. My uni, we do have like a counseling thing, but from what I heard, it takes really long to even get on, like to get an appointment. It was until one of my course mates actually told me that she was struggling with anxiety, and she's like, oh, I'm actually seeing this counselor. And that was how she referred me to that place.
At first, I talked to my friends about it, but it gets, I feel like a bit too much. About 3 years ago, I have a therapist, so I went for therapy. Friends would just be there for you and would not really tell you like any advice that is going to push me forward. But she did, my therapist did.
And my dad, I mean, he really wanted me to do well in army. When I was going through all these issues, like him having gone through army before, you know, the stereotypical lines of like, oh, if so many hundreds of thousands of people have gone through it before, then why can't you? When I was eventually diagnosed and everything, like I remember I was in a car, and he said like, say sorry for not listening to me earlier. I felt like finally someone understood that I was not trying to do badly. I was like trying my best, and unfortunately my best kind of sucked, but it was still my best. There's a societal expectation of what it means to be a man. It's something that I had to eventually unlearn, and eventually like come to realize that, oh, you know, maybe being that emotional crying dude is fine, you know. Because this once I remember I told my therapist like, you know, I don't think I'll ever get a girlfriend because like, why would a girl like someone who's like not manly? Turns out I got a girlfriend, so it's fine. So like, different people bring different value to the world, and just because in that situation like you are not the best suited for that situation doesn't mean you are useless.
If there are people around you who love you, I think that they would love to hear you out and try to help you with whatever you're coping with.
Whoever who just went through a worse breakup, don't isolate yourself. Be in a company where people who love you.
Speaking to someone helps a lot. Don't like keep things to yourself and internalize them too much to the point where you start to feel like you are lacking.
I think for anxiety and depression, it's like you really cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. But the first step is very important but very difficult to make. But you can just try and just make that appointment and just like make the first step. And I think that gives you some kind of hope after that.
Hi guys, on today's episode, we wanted to share more about the hidden struggles with mental health that people may face. Like some of the stories shared here today, some common problems people may face when dealing with mental health is that they might not know where to find professional help, or they might feel too self-conscious to speak to anyone about it for fear of judgment. So we made this video together with Let's Talk by Mindline. Let's Talk is an anonymous community forum that is focused on mental health, and anyone can access it. If you are seeking professional advice, the Ask a Therapist section allows you to seek advice from a certified therapist anonymously. Or if you're just looking for a listening ear, the Let's Talk forum allows you to speak to peers experiencing similar issues, or peer supporters who are trained in providing emotional support. While Let's Talk shouldn't be used as a replacement for professional help, it is a safe space for anyone looking for a listening ear or community support. Check out the link in the description box below to find out more about Let's Talk.
It's quite insane how many times I heard Shaq, bro. I remember when I first broke up, like I really genuinely think the first thing my buddy told me was Shaq, bro. I swear to God. I think it's no, but to be fair, we did this very weird moment where we were in a parade square, and then I was telling him that my girlfriend broke up with me. Then we hugged in the parade square, so that was cool. But I think when I first told him, the first thing he said was Shaq, bro.